Okay, that's going to be part one. That was a half an hour. Part one. This will be part two. And this is the paragraph I was interrupted. The time to come in Jeremiah 31, that is the day of the Lord, is also the time to come of the man described in Isaiah 53. He will have been a sinful man, and I'll not argue that point, whose life had been lowly, full of grievous events and serious injuries, a man of pain and suffering, familiar with the disease that the Spirit of God alights upon, to the crown of God's righteous servant who rises to great heights. And God brings the redemption of the Jewish people through him with covenants and a third temple. It's not a Messianic era. I will make a covenant of friendship with them. This is Ezekiel 37, verses 26 to 28. I will make a covenant of friendship with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. I will establish them and multiply them, and I will place my sanctuary among them forever. My presence shall rest over them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. That's the original covenant. And when my sanctuary abides among them forever, the nations shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel. That's the word I was looking for, sanctify. And through his righteous servant, God does not perfect the world. Ram man. He has his vindication. Thus said the Lord, your God, who champions his people. Herewith I take from your hand the cup of reeling, the bowl, the cup of my wrath. You shall never drink it again. I will put it in the hands of your tormentors who have commanded you, get down, that we may walk over you, so that you made your back like the ground, like a street for passerby. I don't know about that last sentence. That's Isaiah 51, okay? My description starts in 52. I'm the one that leads the wrath upon the Christians, but I have to have the servant. You know, Moses would talk to the Israelites, tell them what we're going to do, and then they go do it. Same thing. Just getting this book in the hands of a Christian will go a long way with wrath, because they're not going to believe. They're going to be silenced and starved. Just give them the summary at the end of the book. And anyway, those who walked over you, primarily Christianity, took your book from you, said you didn't know how to read it, that it was all about Jesus, the coming of Jesus, prophetic of the coming of Jesus, Islam and the world. Jesus spoke a prophecy on more than one occasion that he would return in his generation, and the eyes of those that pierced him with the spear would see it in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 7. Did not happen. His brazen oath to return quickly was not vindicated. Jesus called out on the cross to God, why have you forsaken me? As I told you, that's when he realized he's about to die, and he's not the man of Isaiah 53 who's given long life. Forsaken means to abandon, which is the opposite of vindication and redemption. Again, I'm showing why he doesn't fit verse 1. The arm of the Lord was not revealed upon Jesus Christ. Verse 2. And I'm going to make this the last one regardless of the time. God's hurting my back again. And I haven't had much sleep. Yes, I'm still in the fire. The prophet boot camp for prophets. After 16 years, I call him 16 sometimes. Friend of friend. For he is grown by his favor, like a tree crown. That would be God. And I would be the tree crown. His favor. Wait a minute. That would be me. For he has grown by his favor like a tree crown, like a tree trunk out of arid ground. He had no form or beauty that we should look at him, no charm that we shall find him pleasing. Okay, Midrash form. Like a tree trunk out of arid ground. Isaiah 11:1, describing the anointed one, says, a shoot shall grow out of the stump of Jesse. A twig shall sprout from his stalk. Oh, the shoot comes first. I've been putting it second. Isaiah prophetically refers to the stump of Jesse, the father of King David, as an announcement of the ending of the line of kings of Judah, whose last king, Jeconiah, and his children was banished, and his line terminated. The ancestral seed of David, forbidden to ever rule again over Judah and Jerusalem. That's the only ancestral tree we have. The tree fell, leaving only a stump. It is the line of heirs in the first chapter of the book of Matthew of the New Testament. It is the line of Jesus. A line that cannot be the fulfillment of Isaiah 53:2. Any of it for that matter. But anyway, yeah. Didn't come from the stump. He comes from the line of the kings of Judah. That's what they had, and that's what they went with. I think God knew they would when he wrote Isaiah 11. He had no form or beauty that we should look at him. Midrash commentary. This could never describe Jesus. Jesus is thought of as perfect, a handsome and beautiful man. Everyone, except for certain Jewish religious leaders, found Jesus to be charming and someone to be listened to. Thousands of followers. We should find him pleasing. Commentary. If the arid ground was a Christian country, and his form was a Gentile, it would be Texas and myself. Under the Jewish law, the halakha, in the beginning, would he be attractive and pleasing to the Jewish people? Not at all. Can't barely get them to watch these videos. They don't have many views from Israel. But if he comes from a Christian country with God to Israel and converts Orthodox to Judaism and becomes an Israeli citizen, the answer is yes. He is pleasing. That's what the arid ground was about. I decided to do this or not. It's making my back hurt too much. Okay, I'm going to do one more chapter. Chapter 3. That'll be part 1 and part 2. And it'll take me forever to upload them to YouTube. And I won't use this disc again, this memory card, until they're fully on YouTube. Because sometimes it'll upload or download, I guess it's upload, over 2 hours. And then it's got to be processed. And I've had it there, and I've taken the memory card out, and all of a sudden it says, cannot process. I was after like about 15 hours. So I don't do anything with these part 1 and part 2 until I see them fully on YouTube. Then I can take the dish out and do another couple of chapters, and hopefully my back won't be bothering me so much. I think he just wants to show you that, yes, he is definitely in the fire refinement. You have to guess. He doesn't really talk very much. He doesn't explain very much. I know the things he does. I just don't know why. He was 3. He was despised, shunned by men, a man of suffering, familiar with disease. As one who hid his face from us, he was despised. We held him of no account. You shouldn't have to go any further than to know that does not apply to Jesus Christ in any shape or form. But I'll read it to you anyway. He was despised, shunned by men. Commentary. He will be despised and shunned and held of no account simply for declaring that he is the Lord's righteous servant described in Isaiah 53. Christianity, with God's wrath passed to them, and the rabbis reckoned with and dismissed, shall see what has not been told them, shall behold what they never have heard. That's from 52. And they will not like him. Gentiles will despise and shun the man who startles nations and silences their leaders for announcing that he is the anointed one the Jewish people have been waiting for, and that Jesus cannot be the man described in Isaiah 53. The Jewish people will despise and shun him for the reason they expect and have been taught that the anointed one is Jewish, not a Gentile. And the era of exaltation, redemption, and restoration they have been taught will not be occurring. Now, I have had 150,000 views of these, so I don't think that's true across the board. But if you look at some of the comments I've got, none of them, they're all derogatory. They're all derogatory. But I have to be careful. I don't know if that's coming from a Christian. Because you go look at their YouTube site and there's nothing there. You know, they didn't even have a picture. Just, oh, I don't pay any attention to them. That's part of what this fire refinement is for. To dull my emotions to almost nothing. So these things don't bother me. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm there. He could seal me up right now. It is the nature of people to reject, despise, and hold of no account a man who has no visible proof to substantiate his claims that God speaks to him as God spoke to Moses. That he is, well, they'd be wrong. I do have this book. He dictated the Torah to Moses. How else am I supposed to know all this? An atheist for 50 years, no religious background, no religious friends. And yet I know more than this book will show you, than any rabbi or sage that has ever lived in the history of the Jewish people. Now, how is that possible? There's only one way, a miracle from God. And the things I'm telling you are true. Has no visible proofs to substantiate his claims. That he is a man prophesied to come in the Hebrew Bible. That he is a messenger and deliverer of covenants of God. That the Spirit of God has alighted upon him. And that he offered himself for guilt to God. Well, see, I can't prove that. But I can prove 53:10. Crushed with disease, exposed to death, but given long life. That's me. That's not Jesus. He wasn't exposed to death. He died. I was afflicted by God, born disfigured. You know, it was an indication that God didn't like you. And that, of course, is in 53 also. And I was cut off in the land of the living society. Cords, yeah, well, God's power surrounds me. It's not really cords. I'm going to put my cords on you. His power envelops me from head to toe. You know, I think they used cords because it was written in the antiquity, and people reading it back then would think of ropes. Okay, it's really not like ropes. Not to me. It's just a coating. And he's heavy. You would have seen that in the last chapter. A man of suffering. Oh, Jesus was not despised and shunned by men. Multitudes followed him everywhere he went. 12 men left their way of life to follow and care for him. He was loved and highly esteemed. He did have religious enemies and infuriated religious leaders at synagogues and merchants at the temple. But they could not attack him because of his legion of followers. A man of suffering, familiar with disease. Commentary. God's righteous servant will be a man who has a life full of injuries and wounds, accustomed to illness and disease. Jesus wept one time. He is never portrayed as a man of suffering, familiar with disease. Sure, he suffered on the cross, but we're trying to find a man. We're trying to describe a man, and his life is full of suffering. Not one moment. Jesus, that could be, according to them then, a description of thousands upon thousands of the Jewish people who were crucified and murdered by Rome in the year 70. Also the year Sins. That's why they hid the Dead Sea Scrolls. Driven out of the Promised Land. Jesus wept one time. He's never portrayed as a man suffering familiar with disease. In the gospel, he's never even sick. He is known as the unblemished Lamb of God who lived a perfect life free of any sickness, disease, or wounds until his crucifixion. 8 hours. He had one day of 8 hours of suffering. I had that when I got shot the day after with the bullet, 8 hours in an ambulance. Except I didn't give up the ghost like he did. Who hid his face from us. He was despised. We held him of no account. A man who is despised and held of no account is not going to go out among the people until the perception of him changes and he is asked to. I am trying to change that perception with these videos of God's book. The witnesses are Jews that are made righteous. Outside of certain religious leaders and some merchants at the temple, all the Jewish people loved Jesus. He never hid his face from him. He was never despised. And he was always held in high esteem. Doesn't fit verse 3. Okay, I'm going to stop on 4 because God's... He's doing this. I just know his intent. He won't answer. His intent is to show you that I'm still in the front of it, but I could be acting, of course. I'm not. Every word I say is true. Remember, he controls my mind. I don't have the pleasure of lying anymore. Not that I ever took pleasure. There's no question I was a sinner. It seems like I fit just about all of them except murder. But I didn't habitually sin. You know, I was a family man, a lawyer who helped people whenever I could, trying to explain to them the law and what they could do with their predicament, whatever it might be. But like most men, somewhere along the line, you do things you shouldn't. But God in me, He has taken, he's really dropped low a few times to get emotions from me. Done things that if I told you, you'd say, God wouldn't do that. I found out in the second week, you don't even mumble that. You wouldn't do that. And he says, really? It's like he's getting excited about it. You watch what I'll do. I'm God. Do anything I want. I said, okay. That's what you say to God. Okay. I'm ready. And I weigh about 500 pounds. I can barely walk. Thank you for watching.